Welcome to RECO12. Today we're doing a pop-up meeting, and I'm excited to see the fruits of this and see if this can and will be something that happens more regularly. My name is Justin, and I am a child of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a recovering addict, and am blessed to be the host of this meeting and podcast. RECO12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addiction of all kinds, and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We come together from all places, faiths, and backgrounds to gain tools and hope from others who are walking this path. Speakers from our past meetings have represented so many fellowships, addictions, and afflictions, and we look forward to continuing to add to the diversity of speakers and backgrounds. Today's speaker for the 163rd meeting is Joseph O., who will be speaking on page 63 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We'll get to his talk and Q&A afterwards in just a few minutes. First, for some business, the RECO12 family of recovery resources continues to grow and have more and more resources for the addict and the loved ones of those addicted. This pop-up meeting is just one more way that RECO12 is expanding. We also have RECO12 shares, the first 164 meeting, and a couple of other super exciting projects that are quickly approaching in July. Your donations and subscriptions are making this all possible, and there are costs to build and maintain all of them. On that note, RECO12 is a self-supporting service, and we appreciate your help in keeping us working our Step 12 in this manner. We gratefully accept one-time contributions through PayPal and Venmo through the links that I will be putting in the chat and in the show notes. We also offer a monthly subscription program called RECO12 Spearheads. To join in and help support these really cool projects, please consider donating at www.reco12.com/support. That's RECO12.com. Or click on the link in the chat of the live meeting, and I'll have that here in a few. We look forward each week to receiving from the light reflected from our speakers. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Now I'm going to introduce today's guest speaker, Joseph O., who is another first-time RECO12 speaker. I'm super excited for these first-timers. All right, Joseph grew up on Long Island, New York. He graduated college with degrees in psychology and economics, but he would say his real major was independent study in drugs and behavior. Love it. He made a geographic shift to Los Angeles to get away from his drinking companions and start fresh, but still made no real investment in recovery. In LA, he maintained some abstinence over 10 months, but picked up again when a girlfriend moved on. Very rapidly, he lost his job, apartment, and car, and found himself on Skid Row, living in a Christian mission with 200 other bottom-rung cases. Finally, on February 29th, 1996, he crawled up the steps of a Jewish rehab. He was blessed with a great sponsor that got him into the work quickly and made the process fun and understandable. He was very active in AA around LA, and 3 years ago, he moved to Jerusalem to continue his studies to become a rabbi. Joseph is a proud member of Spiritual Gangsters and a believer that alcoholism is a condition he needs to tread even today. Joseph attends meetings daily, leads a book study twice weekly, focusing on going line by line in order to understand and apply the authentic message as a lifestyle. And he has a sponsor, and he sponsors, and has a God squad that he can rely on for feedback and support that is program-based. Joseph is a member of Jerusalem AA and active with Intergroup as chairman of public information, and a member of H&I, where he dedicates time to bringing the message to rehabilitation facilities and jails. Joseph, take it away. The floor is yours. You're on mute. So come off mute here. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm a novice, newbie. My name is Joseph Ober. I am a recovered alcoholic, and I'm walking through the streets of Jerusalem. Just so happens that is where I am right this second. And it's a pleasure to deliver the message of, recovery and hope and God to a group of people that are looking for this. I'm just going to say the serenity prayer to get myself settled. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I love this format. I love the interactive way that RECO12 is making things happen technologically. It's pretty amazing, and it's great the way God provides a variety of resources that we can use, for good things or for bad things. And I love to see that when people take hold of, an idea and a resource and turn it into something holy, to get the message to people that, really need to hear this. So how did I get to be on this call? So I used to have a drinking problem. I drank, against my will for a long time. I was a party guy in college. Before that, I was, getting back to the, a little bit of this of my story. I don't like to go into a long drunk log, but just to identify, as a nervous kid, with really, kind of nerdy background, very bad social skills, etc. Scream waiting for a mouth, very tight in the chest. Didn't drink at all in high school, nothing, and nothing like that. And eventually, the last day of classes, June 13th, 1986, took a beer, downed it, and the world went from black and white to color. Right, something about that changed in me. It did for me what I could not do for myself, and it was like magic. And I said to myself, you know what? I want more of this stuff. I turned into the funny guy. I turned into the one that could be social. Turned into some of the things that I had wanted to be. Characters on television that I thought were cool or admirable. I could become those people through alcohol, and it allowed me to function in a way that I enjoyed. And it pushed away the pain of failure, this or that or whatever. Anyway, alcohol was something for me that was purely magic. So that was my gig. I got involved with that, and eventually, as all of our stories go, anybody who finds himself in this meeting, we're all brothers and sisters in the regard that somewhere along the line, the genie turned on us. The thing that was allowing us to be successful and to be, giving us ease and comfort, and allowing us to live, happily, all of a sudden became mandatory in our lives, and that's how it was for me. I drank all through college, managed to graduate with a couple of degrees after 5 years, and actually have a girlfriend for three of those years, believe it or not. Obviously in and out, fighting and everything like that. But alcoholics, are special people in that we can absolutely find these amazing women that are purely codependent, that latch onto us and hang around and stick with us. And this woman actually went on to get her PhD in psychology, which is kind of like the where the codependent goes, to climb the mountain. Anyway, so that was my story. I was drinking through college. Things weren't working out. I tried a geographic, went to LA. So now I was away from my family and a support network and my peeps that I had known for a long time. Eventually, drinking got to the point that everything just imploded. And I actually I was living on Skid Row in a mission, the Union Rescue Mission, a Christian mission, downtown Los Angeles. I'm not the right color for that part of town, and it was just a really harrowing experience. But anyway, that was life. And the thing is that anybody who's nearby, anybody on this call that is currently drinking or has just gotten sober, you can relate to this. That our stories always have this plummeting sort of effect, of going downhill, and I believe that rock bottom can be defined as where our lifestyle descends quicker than our ability to rationalize, right? It's just you're in an apartment, and then all of a sudden you're living in your car, and then you're living on your friend's couch, and then you're living on the beach. And all the time you're saying well, this is temporary or this and that or whatever. Our ability to rationalize, will get us through things. So there I was, Skid Row, Los Angeles, and something happened, and I decided. I felt that God spoke to me, said that I should, get sober. So I researched and found a recovery home that could take me, even though I had no money. So on February 29th, 1996, I crawled up the steps of Beit Teshuvah and was introduced to recovery and also to Judaism. I didn't grow up very religious at all. I had a very tenuous connection to Judaism. So this was new in both areas. And there my life really, really started. And it's pretty amazing, that happened for me. I consider it a gift from God. I do not consider the fact that I'm an alcoholic to be, something that to be ashamed of, or to be looked down on, or anything of that nature. I think it's something that is God given. That I was touched by God to have this particular ailment, for which there's a particular solution, and it just so happens that the particular solution is to cleave to God, right? Like all the people that are afflicted with addiction or things they can't control, and the solution is to come back to God. It's almost like He's calling us back. He gave us an addiction that we couldn't control, and in order to handle it, we had to go find a connection with Him. So I consider it to be, sort of a badge of honor. So anyway, so the work started there. Had a great sponsor. Got into the work. Got into the book. I'm a big proponent and big fan of the the book as it's written, and to get into the steps and to look at it black on white. I know that modern AA in a lot of ways has sort of like mutated into what it is today. All the fellowships. And I'll just say, just case in point, like if something really terrible were to happen to somebody today, and you were going to give them advice, you would say something, like call your sponsor or get to a meeting or this or that. And the fact of the matter is that that the big book itself does not recommend those as the ways to combat alcoholism. It says on page 89 that practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. That doesn't mean clicking through to a meeting. It doesn't mean calling your sponsor. Calling your sponsor is just setting up a sort of dependent relationship, where you're feeding off of that person. But like when you pass it forward, like Bill did when he had that that magic moment in Akron, Ohio, when he passed it on to Dr. Bob, that was where the fellowship was born, and that's what we're all about. So like today, if you're experiencing some kind of difficulty or depression or this or that, think to yourself, like how can you reach out to somebody else? How can you pay this stuff forward? How can you be of assistance to another person? Anyway, I'm getting far afield from what I wanted to talk about. This thing, addiction, alcoholism, it's an ism. It's never going to be a wasn't. It's present in me today. Even though it's been a long time since I put a drink to my lips, it still resides in my head, and it comes down to a certain, my brain has become warped. That's what it says in the 12 and 12, that it is truly awful to admit that glass in hand, we have warped our minds into such a state for obsessive drinking that only an act of providence could remove from us. Something about the way we, grew up or whatever it is, that we weren't able to handle, the emotional traumas of life. And once, we got hit with, a fear of failure, or a romance went bad, a drink seemed like a good idea. That's just the way we're programmed. And the thing is that, like today, I don't drink it. That's not my response today. So what happened? What's the in between? The in between is that some higher power came into my life that I've been able to connect to, and as a daily event, I'm able to live according to those principles, and to access that power that keeps me sane and sober. And that when Justin had mentioned that about talking about page 63, it's my favorite page, and I have a friend named Amanda. Shout out Amanda, and she always loves when I page 63. But if you really take this and go to the book and clear your eyes and forget that you ever read the book and pretend you're reading some dusty old diary from 80 years ago, right? From some magical people that, found a solution to life's problems, right? Open it up and read this. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed, right? And the position that they're talking about is placing God first as the employer, the director of our lives. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well, right? So these people are having amazing things happen for them. They have a new employer. I understand the relationship, about an employer-employee relationship, and they speak it out. The God is all powerful, so that he's getting taken care of all their needs. And what do they have to do in order to earn that? They have to keep close to him and perform his work well, right? So established on such a footing, those people are telling us now, 80 years later, established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, we enjoyed peace of mind. As we discovered we could face life successfully, we began to become conscious of his presence. We began to lose our fear today, tomorrow, hereafter. And then it ends with 3 powerful words. We were reborn. And the logic behind those 3 words is we were reborn means that something had to die. And, you can, take a look at yourself in this program and say, what exactly was it that died when I took my 3rd step? But I perceive and, I maintain that it was my old character, my old way of thinking, my old operating system, the way I did things then. Then today I have a new way of living. I have a new employer. I have a new boss, right? I'm not in charge. I'm not in the results business anymore. And I say this to people sometimes and they'll look at me funny, like, what do you mean? That God's directing your actions, or, that you're not interested in the results, or this or that, that's the way I roll today, that I do my best to be a servant for God, and my personal needs get taken care of just the way they're supposed to get taken care of. I lack nothing. Work comes to me. I have a job that I enjoy. Friends come to me. I live in the city that I have dreamed of living in. There's a miracle that I'm able to do so. It's just things tend to work out for me. And I say that, not to claim that I'm better than anybody, but I've done the work. I keep close to him and perform his work well. That's exactly what it said on page 63, right? So like when I get asked to speak at a meeting or to be of service, I answer up yes. Why? Because I feel like it's a message from God that, like, okay, here's your time, Joseph, to pay back, to kick in, and Dr. Bob, if you're familiar with the history of the program, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob Smith, that he did something like 5,000 hours worth of work in the field of alcoholism and sobriety, helping people. Worked with a wide variety of guys, and people asked him, like, why are you spending so much time doing this work? Like, what's that all about? What are you getting from it? And he said, well, I do it for 4 reasons. And I agree with these 4 reasons, so I'm going to state them. 1, he said, it is a pleasure, right? I agree with that. 2nd, he said a sense of duty. And the sense of duty there is because I am uniquely qualified to speak to other alcoholics. I've been there. I've been in their shoes, right? If I'm called upon to talk to a relative of somebody, that's drinking and this and that, I have certain information and certain historical record that that is going to make more of a connection than all their psychology, or cop talks to them, this and that. So I have a sense of duty that, like, because I've been endowed with this particular history and how I live my life, I'm uniquely qualified to pass this message to another alcoholic who's suffering. The 3rd reason was that I'm taking out a little insurance against a possible slip. I don't want to go back to drinking. So I'm, paying into the system. I like to think of the service system, a spirituality, spiritual capital, right? Imagine this. So we live in a world, and we need some spiritual capital. We need access to God. We need help, God to hook us up. You have to make deposits, right? You got to make deposits into this bank account. You have to help somebody else. You have to, go and do positive things in the world, and it starts making deposits into your spiritual bank account. And then on the day that something happens to you where you have to start making withdrawals, there's something there. That's always the problem, is that people live their life and they don't make the deposits, and then on the day that something terrible happens, they can't make the withdrawal. They don't have a God squad. They don't have a safety net. They don't have the resources. I'll tell you a little bit about my life today, in terms of how I've structured it to maintain my sobriety. I have a sponsor. Okay, he happens to live in Toronto, and we communicate several times a week. I have sponsees. I currently have 3, and I have a God squad. I've picked and chosen 5 people, and this is how I term a God squad. God squad is a group of people, and like pick 5, right? Why 5? So that just like you're right-handed, you'll be able to know that you have 5 people that you can rely on to tell you the truth about what's really going on with you, right? You give them permission. You say, you know what? You're on my God squad. I'm going to give you a license to, give me feedback that I need to hear. If something's going down with me, I would appreciate if you called me out on it. You've got license. I need that in my life. And the opposite side is that, on God squad, if I flash a 911, that, I really need to talk to somebody right now because something bad has happened in my life, or conversely, something amazing has happened in my life, because that can also take an alcoholic out, like getting engaged or winning $100 million, right? Like you win $100 million, how are you going to handle that, as an alcoholic? All of a sudden, like all the reasons for not drinking just, disappear. Anyway, you'll figure it out when you get your money. But the thing is that you got to be prepared for those kind of things. Have a God squad. I lead a big book study twice a week. We go line by line. I enjoy it very much. People who come to it are interested in, looking at the big book, from an angle of like really teasing out what the meaning of it is, and seeing what the first 100 experienced as a way of life. I feel that service work that I do, I feel that I'm qualified for it. And God wants me there. It gives me great pleasure when people show up, that sort of thing. I think I basically go to a meeting a day. Since COVID happened and Zoom appeared on the scene, the way I've structured my life is that I have a meeting a day that I appear in and somehow contribute to, which is pretty amazing. I have different levels of things that I need. I connect to a 12. I lead a big book study, like I told you in the morning, but in the evening there is a meeting that looks at the book called The 12 and 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. And I enjoy doing that. I belong to the intergroup of Jerusalem. Jerusalem has an AA membership and etc. It's nothing like what I had experienced in Los Angeles. I got sober in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles has 1,800 meetings a day. Okay, 1,800 listed meetings a day. You can't believe the number. Go look it up. It's fact. We have 2 meetings a day, right? 2 or 3, some days, and that's fine. But in order to make it run and this and that, I work on the intergroup. I help to pass the message to the rehabs here, and for anybody on this call and anybody that's trying to stay sober and really get this message, I'll just tell you something that clicked over with me back when I was in that rehab, when I crawled up those steps in 1996. Somebody came in and said, it says rehab on the door, rehabilitation. What are you all rehabilitating from? And, hands shot up and said, I smoke cocaine, or, heroin addiction, or alcohol abuse. And he said, all those things could be chemically treated, in a week or two tops. Said, why are you guys hanging around for, 3-6 months in this rehab program? What are you rehabilitating from? And so we all kind of didn't understand what he was going for. So he provided the answer, and he said, I'll tell you what I am recovering from. He said, I'm recovering from an inability to live comfortably in general society. He said, that's what I suffer from. I have an inability to live comfortably in general society. It's when I wake up in the morning, and it's going to be with me probably till the day I die. And I think that that's at the core of my, my alcoholism, is that somehow I feel uncomfortable in general society for whatever reason. I feel I'm out of place, that I'm better than somebody or worse than somebody, or that I have to chime in, or that somebody's trying to make fun of me when they're not, whatever it is. I have a feeling of discomfort, and that's the thing that I ultimately need to drink, to treat. And I used to treat it with alcohol. That was my treatment for that condition. Pour booze on it, and it got better. And then, once that was taken from me because the consequences were just too much, I chose to live this program. Now the program is the thing that treats that alcoholism. And if you employ this program and you give it all you got, you find people that know what they're talking about and pursue information, and you access the resources that like Justin is providing, and the spiritual gangsters, contact Nikki and go to her noodle show, come to a big book study that I run. Life can be an amazing, amazing experience. It's just God wants to, he's just bursting to, he just wants to deliver it. It's just a question of like, do we want to create, turn ourselves into an effective vessel? And that's really what it's all about today, is that, I'm trying to turn myself into an effective vessel to handle the many blessings that have been afforded me. The opportunity to live in to live in Jerusalem. I moved from LA to Jerusalem in order to continue my studies, in Judaism. I went to yeshiva. Ultimately, I was given a smicha, which means ordination. So I became a rabbi. And I also work and I teach. I've been afforded these opportunities that, sometimes I don't feel that I'm worthy of. Sometimes I question and say, is God really, who's running the railroad here? But the fact of the matter is that, I try and step up, into the role that's been created for me. And I'm proud of that. And I've got a nice level playing field for it. And that's the thing that I want to deliver to other people, is that, this path of living in the world of the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, of, any of the spiritual, fellowships that are, popping up over the planet. We're all connected because we had some kind of situation that we couldn't figure out, right? That we couldn't get a handle on. And we somehow had to transcend that through God, and we come out on the other side. So that connects me to that person immediately. I don't care where they grew up. I don't care what language they speak. I don't care what hockey team they like. I have something that is connected to that person immediately. And that is sliced throughout the entire book. You can see it throughout the entire book. The feeling of camaraderie and friendship, beating a common disease. The book was written in the shadow of when the Titanic went down, and so they talk about that you have this sort of camaraderie that people cling to one another, just like just surviving a shipwreck. Even though some people are from the captain's table, from the highest levels of society, and some people are from the lowest levels of society, don't care. We could all meet in a meeting, and that's actually what I've experienced. That it's a level playing field. It's an anonymous program. I'm just a soul. You're just a soul. I'm not better than you, not worse than you, nothing. I guess I'll end with this okay. I guess I'll end with this that that this fellowship is ours to live and breathe. We are the dream of Bill Wilson and Bob Smith. They worked their ass off to make certain that this call could happen, even though they couldn't imagine in their minds that Zoom would ever exist or this or that or whatever, how it would work out. And the thing is, there's a responsibility when we carry this message, can carry these principles. And, I just want to leave you with the idea that, there's a reason why you were invited into this party and invited into this program. And drinking kicked your ass, or drugs or food or gambling or whatever it is, however you got here, it doesn't matter. You're here. Something brought you here. It wasn't a letter that said, come to RECO12 and win a Cadillac. It wasn't that kind of marketing. But the thing is that if you found yourself here, there's a reason for it, and God has a purpose for you. God has something that He wants you to handle. To develop yourself, to have a good life, to pass the message to other people that are suffering. These are all things that we can do. And when we get this program into ourselves, we can be great healers. I've been involved with taking people's fifth steps and stuff like that. And I think that, we really do heal the world one person at one soul at a time. Okay. If you're on this call and you're involved in this program and you're doing your best to cling and to invest in this lifestyle, then I truly believe that you are part of the top 1% of the human population and deserve accolades therein. It's an honor to run with you, and I look forward to seeing you always enjoy and recovery.
Thank you so much, Joseph. I really appreciate that. Loved several of the things you shared there, and we'll get into the questions and answers that I've written here. And if our live audience has any questions, please type them in the Q&A link at the bottom of the Zoom window. I'll get to those as we go along. Joseph, the first question I have for you is one that I love. I had somebody introduce me to this concept, and it wasn't in recovery. It was in service, basically, concept that when I give service, when I contribute in recovery, it's like I'm paying into an insurance policy. Now, I love the concept, but at the same time, for someone like me, I set the expectation. Hey, if I'm doing this, I want this back when time happens. How do you go about paying into this insurance policy without the expectation of what you think is going to come back in payment on the day you need it?
I had no idea that I was going to be questioned by a professional in this manner, but that's a good question. It's a deep question, and it's relevant to recovery one day at a time. The concept of being of service, extending ourselves for the benefit of another, I think is something that everybody should make a part of their program. I engage my sponsees and challenge them to develop that as a daily practice. And when I hear your question, I was trying to speak to it. When I see that that I do those things, I go out. I saw a post for a somebody posted that somebody was lacking food somewhere in Jerusalem, and could somebody bring them food? And I contacted the person who posted it and whatever, and I wound up bringing the food. And the thing is, I went and did it. And part of me, is like, well, where's the cash and prizes? Like, aren't I supposed to be like, don't I hit the lottery now? But now I can almost, like look at myself and laugh and just say, like, that's my ego talking. That's just, I can laugh it down. I don't have to take it seriously. I did the thing that I was meant to do. And when I see my ego, burst forth like that with expectations of, some kind of response, I can call it out for what it is. It's ego. It's not part of my day today.
Love it. And I think what goes along with that, and so let me try and phrase this a little bit, because I want to put it into words for myself as much as for anybody else, so I see this more clearly. The expectation of, when I take food to somebody, I want the cash and prizes. I want, when I take out the trash for my wife, I want her to be, when I come back in, doing back handsprings and cheerleading for me, saying, "Yay, good job, you did this." That's what my ego wants. But and this goes into something you said earlier. You said, "Hey, I lack nothing." Um, maybe that's the reward, and I need to be satisfied with that. Hey, if I'm giving, I'm not going to lack. I'm going to have sufficient for my needs. What is your experience with that? I lack nothing. Have you ever had a time where you're like, I can't go on without such and such, and yet you've gone on because you've been provided sufficient for your needs?
Wow. You're asking really deep questions. It's like you're we're going to yeshiva, into the yeshiva for the theological seminar. But okay, so let's start with the issue is that we are people that had that suffered, that were living our lives the way we wanted. For whatever reason, our higher power, the universe, we were born, we were allowed to live however we wanted. We could run down the street, we could, unprotected sex, we could burn people on, they loaned us money and we didn't pay back. Whatever, we could do whatever we want, right? And then there came a time where that wasn't okay with us anymore. Something was bad for us. We crashed because of drugs and alcohol, et cetera, et cetera. And so now we're having this awakening that we want to be a better person, right? A more effective agent connected to a higher power. We want to be a better employee of the boss, And so when I look at it that way, then I start to see clearly that that's where my ultimate goal is, to be the most effective employee that I can be, to execute his will, and to be what he would have me be, and to put my agenda on the side. When I do that, ultimately, I feel better about myself. I don't have the issues, and I don't feel the lack. I don't, because all the other stuff, like if you go and question people in Beverly Hills, why do you have to have 7 cars? They'll make a defense well, I need them for this or that or whatever. But really, people don't need 7 cars. You know what I'm saying? The ego generates this idea that we need to appear a certain way. We need to look a certain way to others. But when we're really in tune with God, then our existence is that we lack nothing. And we can act that way. I have gone through times where I feel like everything's falling apart. That's true. I'm saying that we get back to the hard reset. There's a famous rabbi named Maimonides that actually says that reality and wisdom is like a rainstorm where a flash of lightning comes sporadically, where you can see the path clearly. Right? But then it disappears, and sometimes we get those flashes of insight that life is okay. Life is good. Things are going to work out. We have to hold on to those and go forward. Okay. Sorry. I hope that answers your question. Did that?
Love it. And I loved that story of the lightning that flashes, that illuminates the path for that second where I can see clearly and then it's gone, but I can start walking forward with that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
For sure. And I think that's probably been your experience as well, that you've had these flashes of insight of I know that God loves me and I know that he's taking care of me. And then the next day you wonder why, things are all a mess, yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I have. And I've definitely had those experiences. All right. We have a comment first from Anita from the audience. Anita says, and this is in regards to this last question and discussion this comment you last made. I have to release from any expectation in doing service. I have to do service, ironically, for myself, because in bearing witness to a higher power in something else, I am able to be uplifted. Um, and I love that. Do you have any additional comments on that, Joseph? Or
I agree. I agree. I got you. Oh, am I on? Oh, sorry. Hi. Okay, I'm back. No, I agree with what she said. When our aspiration is to do service, real service, it's really with no benefit towards me. I'm doing a job for the boss. It's not where I want to be praised for it. It can happen, and I mean that can be pan out, but I don't have to have that expectation. And I'll tell you honestly that things, daily things like you drive somebody to the airport, okay, and they jump out of the car, grab their bag, and don't say thank you, and you are bent out of shape, and that just happens, right? But why? Why do we get bent out of shape? Because somewhere deep down we have a programming that we've bought into a belief system that says that people should say thank you. So I had to with my recovery drill down to that area and uproot that and say, where did I get that information? That's not from God. That's not necessarily true. People don't necessarily have to say thank you. It's nice if they do. Maybe my mother pounded it into me that people have to say thank you and this and that. But anyway, so now I don't have to get resentment when I drop somebody off at the airport and they don't say thank you. And it's like all these myriad of things. I feel like I've had a second life in recovery because I have to change all these things that have been holding me hostage.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. This is a question from an anonymous attendee from our live audience. They said, how do you stay strong with God and not be swayed by unhealthy people in the program? For example, codependence, if that springs up. How do you stay strong with God in those situations?
Okay. If I understand the question correctly, then, the fellowship, is an organism. It has patterns and a lot of things go on in meetings and this and that, and we meet people, but we always have to remember that ultimately my recovery is between me and God. It doesn't matter what you think of me. It literally does not matter what you think of me. You could like me, not like me. My sponsor has boiled it down to this little phrase that says, you don't have to have a lot of friends, but you have to be, friendly. You have to give the vibe of that you could be friendly. But as we move through the program, we connect to certain people and we don't connect with others. And just if we get ourselves centered, with what we are all about and what we enjoy in the program and pursuing, a lifestyle of recovery and principles, certain people will join us, certain people are not interested. And then certain people have like coda issues, that they're controlling and this and that. And we have to remember that, we're able to stand firm, in our own recovery of what the relationship is bounded by. We don't have to be, anybody's hostage, even within the fellowship.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This next question is one that I definitely asked a lot when I was in active addiction and early in recovery. And I'd like to hear your take on this. So this person says, I too became religious and I love God, but I still get tempted so often to act out in my addiction. How can I apply my love for religion to my love for sobriety?
Okay. Wow. That's a good question. And, these kind of things, asking, about religion and how it dovetails with recovery. I happen to be a religious person, and I also happen to be, real, in love with recovery. The thing is that, you have to remember that like the two are kind of, they're separate. They're not the same. They don't exist in the same world. They don't have the same purpose or rituals, etc. In a lot of ways, I wish that my worlds would kind of merge. But me personally, I can go within those two worlds. But you just have to boil it down to your relationship with God, Hashem, higher power, whatever your relationship is with that God. You have to ask yourself if you want to be religious, and if you believe that there's a God, and if you want to make God a part of your life. Do you think God wants you to drink today? Do you think God wants you to drink about this problem that's occurring in your life? Right? He doesn't. This problem is occurring in your life. He wants to see how you're going to sort it out. He has some kind of plan on how you'll be able to make that happen. It's a challenge for you. And so if you're religious enough to say that you have a love for God and great affinity and this and that, then you also have to say to yourself, that okay, you're establishing a relationship with God. He's gifted you with this addiction, alcoholism, etc. There's a purpose for it, and so you have to work that through. But picking up and drinking and using is not the manifestation that is going to be pleasurable for that God that you claim to love.
I love that. Thank you, Joseph, for taking that angle at it. One of the things that I learned that I have learned and continue to learn in my recovery is I am also a religious person. And I thought that religion was going to fix my problem. I thought the religion was going to solve my issue. I repented and repented and repented and repented. But until I realized that repentance is not recovery and recovery is not necessarily repentance, and it didn't click. I thought that if I repent, it's all going to be good. And that's not how it worked for me. It's like you said, these two worlds, they interweave, but they have different tentacles that go out. They have different, there's the core, which is God, but they go in different ways to get to God. So
the two sides of the same mountain, or, what have you. And the fifth step, the principle underlying it of integrity is to be integrated, and that's where we're at. If you take our religion and our recovery and integrate it into, so that we're the same person, that we can manifest our observance and connection with our higher power. That there's that it's merging of the two. I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we're going to get ready to start wrapping up here, Joseph. Before we go into the closing reading and the step 3 prayer to launch out of here, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us?
Okay. I would like to say that, it's truly my belief, and it has been my experience, my recovery experience, that, this program works, that God loves you, that he's, waiting to have a connection with you, that your higher power will carry you through this, and that you're greater than you could possibly know. And, we're all here to benefit each other and to make this world a little bit better. And that pleases God greatly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And the ancillary benefit of that, it's almost like a side note. If you really take it as a lifestyle, we don't drink, we don't use, we don't see cocaine. I don't stay up late at night watching 10 hours of Netflix. I don't, feel that I have to take trips around the world. Some of my normie friends with gobs of money, millions of dollars, they feel like they have to travel here, there, everywhere, because that's what people do, and I'm not, I'm not looking down on them or anything like that, but the reality is that, they're trying to fill a need, an itch, the same itch that I tried to solve with alcohol. They're trying to do it in a different way. So we've got a handle on this. if you're in this room, you're like, you're in the winner's circle.
Love it. Thank you so much, Joseph. That was great. RECO12 pop-up meeting. I think we'll do more of these in the future. Appreciate that. If we didn't get to your question in the live audience, or if anybody out in the podcast audience has questions, please consider joining our WhatsApp community by sending an email to RECO12pod@gmail.com and join our community to ask those questions, answer others that may come up. That way you can also be more in the loop for these pop-up meetings in the future as we do them, because it's not going to be something that's going to be advertised until like the day of. So, but we'll make that happen. Let's see. If you were inspired and want to share something of your insights in a 12-step type share, please consider going to RECO12 Share's SpeakPipe link that I put in the chat. It'll also be in the show note of the podcast. Record a 3 or 4 minute share. And if you've not yet rated and reviewed the podcast in Apple Podcasts, please go do so now. It's a great way to work your step 12 and to help us work our step 12 and sharing this message with others. I invite the audience to come back tomorrow. Harvey E. will be joining us at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Time, speaking to us on the topic of the power of pause. Harvey E. is a RECO12 favorite. I think this will be his 4th time on RECO12, so we're excited about that. Now let's launch off into the rest of our day with the 3rd step prayer that Joseph will be saying for us.
God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as I will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, the victory over them may bear witness to those who are at help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Awesome. Thank you, Joseph. Remember, everybody, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back.
Amen.
Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight. Still searching for glimmers of light. Feet still on the ground. I can still be found. Standing still.
My wings are torn and tattered, but I know I still can fly. I may not soar unfettered, I may not rise too high.
Recorded in the book of life and binded with the seal that I am bowed and broken. I am standing still.
Only God knows where the path of life will yet lead me. I do not even ask to know. I do not need to see.
It is enough to know that I'm loved and not alone. And with those truths, I thankfully march into the unknown. Still standing, I will fight the good fight. Still searching for glimmers of light. Feet still on the ground. I can still be found. Still standing, I Jesus.